Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm joined with Joe748 and Highl0w20. Highl0w20, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. How you doing, Joe748?
Good. I'm ready to go to Vegas this week.
That's right. Yeah, we're about to head to Vegas for boot camp, but first we wanted to interview Highl0w20, who we saw a few months ago at the last boot camp. And you've got a very interesting story. It's one that other people have done, but I'm excited to dig into how you're going about it. So to get into your story, can you tell us how you got to the point of deciding to leave your job and buy an RV and travel around the country counting cards with your family?
Yeah, I think my wife and I both lacked an adventure that we needed in our life. And you can feel very stagnated going to the same job day in and day out. I think the cycle of working more hours than you spend with your family to pay for a box that you live in and you don't really get to enjoy any time is just kind of like a real burden. And I knew blackjack was kind of always beatable and never really pursued it in that manner. But as I found BJA and I started to go through it little by little, I was able to actually make a little money doing it. And as I did that, and I built my bankroll, I decided to come to the boot camp where I tested out actually with you, Colin,
I remember.
and SD1. I did pretty good there. You guys were pretty happy with that. I went on to count 200 or 300 hours, and then I got another professional to come out and test me out live. That went really well. So yeah, one thing led to another, and little by little, I slowly started to replace the income from working a full-time job into AP life, where blackjack was starting to make enough money that I was able to go to my boss and just say, "Look, I'm not going to be working on Fridays anymore, and I'm going to take a 3-day weekend all the time from here on out." And even though that wasn't the best thing for them guys, it was working out a lot in my favor. So little by little, I was able to overcome with blackjack the amount of money that I was making at work.
If I recall, there was some bumps along the road, right? I can't remember exactly from just the BJ chat, but whether it was like a lot of backoffs or some losing streaks. How long did it take to feel like you could trust the EV over the paycheck?
It took quite a while. I think I played for almost 16 or 17 months after I did my test out before blackjack actually started to be fruitful enough for me to feel confident in saying, look, I only need a 4-day work week anymore.
And then how much longer was it between that and quitting?
It didn't take much longer after that. I'd say when COVID was going on, it was a real opportunity to get out there and do some cheap traveling. Things were really cheap then. I was able to acquire quite a bit of a bankroll during that time period. My wife and I decided that this is going so well. We had both wanted to live a little bit different life. We had always talked about traveling in an RV prior to blackjack even being a thing. So I guess slowly those two things, more and more of our conversations, slowly those two things started to mix together. And yeah, we had made the decision together that we were just going to sell the house and spend a couple years on the road and see how this actually worked out.
That brings me to a question. When you sold the house, did you then just immediately up your bankroll? Were you able to make a huge jump in your betting?
To be honest with you, no. I actually kept the same bet spread that I was using prior to that. And I used the house money to just be able to lay out the groundwork for a 2-year trip and make sure that even if the bankroll money didn't succeed, we could still continue to enjoy a couple of years on the road, even if that meant returning back to a full-time job. So that money was kind of set month by month to facilitate all the overhead, and the bankroll was set aside just for cards.
And what was your family's reaction when you proposed this idea of living on the road altogether full time?
I don't think anybody in my family was actually surprised that I decided to do this. I think the cards took them by surprise, but I'm always kind of an adventurous person anyways. I dropped out of high school at 17 and joined the Army. I kind of did things a little bit faster in life. I had kids at a really young age, and now I got a couple of those guys off into college. Keep one of them on the road with us. I have a 16-year-old still on the road with us. I don't think anybody was really surprised that it was a life that I chose. I think everybody was more surprised that I was making money in the manner in which I was.
So you've got three kids out of the house, is that right?
Yes, I have three out of the house.
And then how old was your son that is on the road with you? How old was he when this started?
He would have been about 14 and a half, and he's just turned 16 here recently.
And how's that been for him? How was that to kind of leave home, leave friends, and head on the road?
I got to be honest, the direction of some of the schools and some of the schools that we were at, it was actually good, I believe, to take him out of school and homeschool him and take him around the country and give him the experience of, different locations in the country have different monuments, different museums, different sightseeing attributes that I think you can learn more being out in the real world sometimes than you can being in a school full time. So I think he gets a really good education. Obviously, he still has the online curriculum that's required of the state, but he kind of pilots that himself and does pretty well.
So he's enjoying it.
Yes, for sure.
That's awesome.
What's like your typical day look like when you're trying to blend counting and also teaching and living? What does that look like?
Well, I got to be honest with you. It's pretty busy, but my wife takes up a big portion of those responsibilities. A typical day for us while working it can be pretty crazy because my hours can fluctuate quite a bit. I might sleep in the middle of the day versus at night, or vice versa. Try to have a good on-off routine where I work for a few weeks on and then take a couple of weeks off where we just spend time as family and put the AP life aside.
What are some of the most challenging parts of living in an RV?
Oh man, I'd say keeping everything operational for sure. My mechanical background really comes in play for sure. Learning your rig, understanding its limitations and your limitations as well play a big role in making daily life run smoothly. That's for sure.
And what are the costs like? Have you compared the costs of using an RV versus a car and hotel approach?
For sure. I think the hotel approach just wouldn't have worked for me if I would have kept the house and decided to like fly out or rent a car and stuff like that. I just don't think it would have worked. A lot of that stuff can run, upwards of $100 to $120 a day just to put a roof over your head unless you're willing to sleep in your car. An RV maintained properly, I can run for $35 a day and still keep all the amenities of home. I can have all my things with me, whether that be boondocking and just making sure the, generator has enough gas, you have enough propane, enough water and things like that, or just staying in an RV park. You can get a lot of RV parks around the country that are, $1,000 to $1,100 a month. That reduces your daily rate to well below $40 a day, which is completely feasible compared to some of the hotels that are out there now.
I used to have some friends that for their business, they did a lot of like conventions. So they bought this giant RV for that to sell their online products at. Because they owned it, they traveled every summer around the country in it. And I remember them saying how nice a lot of the RV parks were, and that there's even like kind of RV park community, people are sharing where they're from and where they've been and all that stuff. Has that been kind of your experience as well?
For sure. There really is a big RV park community. It's a niche where you can find kind of anything you're looking for, whether that be homeschooling classes or you still want to do church things or other hiking groups. But yeah, there's a lot of different communities, and it's crazy. Some of the people, you get to know some of the people and they kind of travel the same direction you do, and you meet up with them at other RV parks. So you even see other friendly faces that you kind of known along the way. But a lot of the RV parks, they come with a lot of great amenities too. Some of our favorite things to do in the morning is get up. We do a light exercise and typically play pickleball. A lot of RV parks have pickleball. They have swimming pools. pool tables, dartboards, all those amenities that I guess you just wouldn't get with a hotel. So if you were trying to travel with your family, I really feel like it's a better way to go for sure.
You had Joe748 at pickleball.
That brought up a painful. Me and Colin, we got absolutely destroyed a few weeks ago in Vegas by these two women, like way older than us. It was really embarrassing, like 11-0. Like it was bad.
I believe that I picked it up for my mother, so it seems to be they seem to be pretty vicious sometimes.
What's frustrating is I consider myself a decent pickleball player, and Joe748 as well, and they destroyed us. I blame it on they had really fancy paddles, and we had these super cheap paddles off Amazon. It was swap paddles. I'm sure it would have gone 11-0 the other way.
Do you have any really like useful apps that you use that help out a lot with this kind of lifestyle? Like any come to mind that are really helpful?
The Dirt is a good app to use, but I'd say the biggest apps that you want to use are going to be like your Travel America, your Loves, and things like that to try to keep your fuel expenses lower. We go through a lot of propane as well. Those things are nice to find if you need a bigger shower as well. Sometimes you just want to get out of the RV. So a lot of Loves have some really nice shower locations as well. That's kind of a big deal. I can't really think of any other apps besides really just the Loves and the Dirt, because the further we get into this, the more we're finding just the RV parks are where we want to be.
What's the longest you've stayed in one region?
Oh my goodness. We boondocked in a parking lot for 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
What?
That was Generator. There was a Love's gas station that was literally 3 blocks from us. I would go over there every 4 days, fill the water up and fill the gas up. We would run on Generator most of the day, and I was literally just staying in their parking lot, walking in and out of the casino a couple times a day.
Wow. What are the rules? Like, how long are you allowed to stay in the parking lot for? How does that work?
So this particular location was a 3-day rule. However, I was getting treated really well. The host had made it to where I actually had security keeping an eye on the RV. They had welcomed me for a very long, extended period of time, and security drive by in the morning and wave and kind of keep an eye on us, and we were very welcome.
I'm assuming you've added more to your AP arsenal over the last few years.
Yeah, a little bit. I still think that counting cards is definitely the fallback of always guaranteed to bring in income for sure.
Have you had any strange incidents, living in your vehicle?
As far as living in the vehicle, it's been pretty typical. As far as instances, yeah, I've been ran out of a couple different places. One story that I think everybody might kind of enjoy is we were going through New Mexico, and this was probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and we pulled into a casino that wasn't actually a planned stop. I ran inside. We didn't even stick the slide out. I just run inside to get in a session as long as I could. A couple hours into that session, they were pretty aggressive with the back off, where they escorted me out of the building. And instead of giving up the fact that I was in the RV and letting them see the license plate and all that stuff, I decided to walk down the road, maybe a quarter mile to a gas station. I was in the gas station using the restroom when two police officers opened the door and asked me, "Were you just told to leave the casino?" And I said, "Yes, I was." And they said, "Okay, well, we own this gas station. We'd like you to leave the gas station as well."
Was this tribal police?
It was. It was. I literally was in the middle of using the bathroom at the time, and they did not care. They wanted me to leave immediately. So I walk outside, and I still didn't want to give up the location. The fact that my wife is on the property in the RV making lunch. So I walked to the sidewalk, and they followed me all the way to there. And we just kind of had this awkward standoff. And I said, "Do you own the sidewalk?" And he says, "No, we don't." I said, "Okay, well, I'm just going to stand here till you leave." And he says, "Well, I'm not going to leave until you leave." So I decided to just walk on down the sidewalk, which in New Mexico quickly turns into the desert. So I'm walking down. At this time, the sun's literally getting ready to set over the hill. And I call my wife and I said, "Look, I know that you've never driven the RV. And she never had up until this point. I said, but I need you to hop in the driver's seat, navigate through that parking lot, and come pick me up on the road. And she successfully did it very well. She gets onto the road. She's maybe going 5-10 miles an hour. I run around to the other side of the RV and hop in the driver's seat. She jumps in the passenger seat. We just kind of look at each other. You know, I've got all this money sticking out of my pocket that I just peeled this casino for. The sun's literally going down. And it's just like a Bonnie and Clyde moment as we just stare at each other, driving off literally into the sunset. So I don't know. At that moment, it was amazing, a bonding experience for sure.
That's awesome. I was thinking you could get a Uber or a Lyft, but then it would have to bring you back to the casino parking lot.
Yeah, so I've completely changed my tactics since I've had several run-ins like that. Now we usually park at an RV park or further away. I have a car that's attached to the RV. I'll just dismount the car and I use that car to go on and off property. If I even decide to drive the car on property, sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I park it in a different location, just get closer and then walk to the casino as well.
Did you have like some big massive win for them to have this crazy reaction to come into your bathroom stall, or what was the deal there?
Yeah, I was just sitting in high limit playing my normal spread, but it was a pretty good session. I It seems like when you get into the $7,000 to $8,000 range, no matter what you're doing to try to hide it when it's coming on your side of the table, you just can't keep from pulling too much heat. I'm sure you know just as well that a lot of places will pull the trigger on you around that number.
It's like, sir, I'm in this stall because of your all you can eat buffet and I'm feeling the effects of it. It's like it's your guys' fault. When you're stuck in a parking lot for 2 months, I mean, what does your family do in the meantime?
Oh, so for that particular instance, it was just too good. I couldn't give it up. I ended up flying my son home about 3 weeks into that one so he could spend a couple of weeks with his grandparents who actually have an RV as well. And me and my wife finished that stint out, and his grandparents drove him back out, and we all had like a little 2 week vacation after that was over. But yeah, that got pretty intense. It's pretty boring, I'm sure, in a parking lot.
How do the grandparents feel about all this?
They don't mind. Honestly, they've been immensely supportive. I can't begin to tell you how supportive everybody has been, especially the further that we take it. You know, the further and further we go and the more successful it becomes, it seems like the more support you get.
Yeah, I was going to wait till later to ask this, but has it financially been worthwhile as opposed to just staying and grinding at your day job and doing this as a hobby?
For sure. Financially, I couldn't be happier. I'm definitely making more money now than I ever have in the past. And I use that money for future investments and future AP endeavors that are already starting to become fruitful as well. So, yeah, I don't see myself ever returning to a full time job again.
It's interesting, my experience is closer to yours than Joe748. There's actually a discussion on the forum going on right now about mental health as an AP, and I think a big part of that challenge is people that are just isolated, people that are on the road all by themselves, week after week or month after month. And I think there's something interesting about that. When I was playing full time, I'd go on solo trips, but it was for 3, 4, 5 days. Then I'm back home with family and kind of, with kids right back into family life. And I also did some long road trips with the family. We never did a RV thing. We had the minivan or whatever, and then we'd stay at hotels. But there's something about being connected to community, whether it's family, friends, whatever, that I would imagine helps with the burnout rate. Do you find that to be true?
I do. And, you know, the RV doesn't actually help with the isolation. So it's a great way to lower your expenses and to keep costs low, to just grind as many hours as you need to, be really close to where you need to be, and just grind until you get to a point where you feel really comfortable. Once you reach that point of comfortability and you hit that wall of isolation, even me and my wife are guilty of it. We have to park the RV. We have to rent an Airbnb. We have to get more freedom. I mean, we need those things. Even now, we decided to just come home for an entire month, maybe even 6 weeks, just because that can be a real burden.
That's cool that you've realize that. It's tough reading some of the stories of people getting really burned out or even depressed. And so knowing kind of your limits, knowing what you need to stay healthy in this job seems really important. And I could imagine, even though you have family with you the whole time, there's still plenty of opportunity for burnout. And then you guys get an Airbnb or head home for a while to kind of recharge. And then I'm sure your son gets to see friends and family and all that when you guys are home for a stretch.
Yeah, the dirt bike. He runs straight to the dirt bike. You can't get him off of it. Yeah, and and speak of burnout and mental health, reducing your sugar intake and actually doing some type of exercise when you get up is a big deal. It really helps. All I even use is just a couple of 15-pound dumbbells and some isometrics, and it can really help with that mental stability. It really can.
Nice. Are you guys cooking a lot in the RV or?
Yeah, in fact, I guess getting back to challenges, that would be a big challenge is finding wholesome places to be able to purchase food. And we have a small refrigerator, so we end up carrying a cooler and on long trips and packing it full of food so that we can, when we do find some place that has good food locations, like going back to the just staying healthy and helping with the burnout, you can't be eating fast food all the time. You can't be taking in junk food all the time. You need to cook for yourself and be healthy for sure. I'm a big advocate of that.
And what about sleep? Do you find you're able to, get enough sleep in the RV?
Absolutely not. I think that's self-induced though. I think that's self-induced and kind of comes with the territory. You're not going to walk away from a good opportunity. And even if that presents itself at 11 at night and has to run till 4 in the morning, then that's just how it works.
That's what I was going to ask you is what do you think is the biggest advantage, like playing time or table wise, that you get from this RV lifestyle versus someone who's taking smaller trips? Is it just like the ability to play at any time of the day and then not have to worry about hotels, checking in, all that? Or is it something else?
Yeah, no, I think you kind of pretty much nailed it. I think it's like you always live next to the casino. Having a house and being isolated in say one location, everything is a trip, but depending on where you park yourself, you can always be next to EV, and I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, it was kind of limited. Even though I did like the Road Warrior stuff, I was still hotel to hotel. So I wasn't able to have the same freedom you have. Whereas, like, I had to kind of always schedule my sessions to sort of end around 1, 2 a.m. at the latest. So I could get a decent amount sleep before checkout the next day. Because if I were to play from like 2 a.m. to 5, then sometimes they won't let you check in that early ahead of time for the next day and then you only get 4 hours. It's just hard, like, to do that.
I've run into that a couple of times early on in my career when I was sleeping in hotels or my car. And you're right, that does become hard. I guess having the RV does make that a little bit easier because, like I said, if an opportunity presents itself in the middle of the night, you don't have to walk away from it just because of your sleeping pattern. You can continue to take advantage of that opportunity and you just have the luxury of sleeping in as long as you need to, I suppose, the next day.
So I'm told regularly on the internet that card counting is a total waste of time, and you can't really get any hours in at it or generate any EV. That's what the armchair experts like to tell me regularly. What do you think is your personal strength when it comes to counting cards and getting in the hours? Is it that you have got a good act or just perseverance and resilience?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of needs their own little act, but you're gonna need to pack a big bag of perseverance because you're gonna be told no many and many a times. I guess I would kind of consider it the same as cold calling for someone that does telemarketing. You're gonna get a lot of no's. You just need that one yes to keep on pushing through each time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thick skin and not a lot of quit in you.
Yeah, just being able to take it with a grain of salt, and I typically try to leave as less memorable as possible. That way, you can always come back and return at a later date. If you didn't get a lot of hours one day, you never know what happens 3 months down the road. Because I've been told no inside of 30 minutes, and then showed up 6 months later and played for 5 or 6 hours. So you just never know what's going to happen.
Has there been a time where you've lost your cool during a back off?
It did get the better of me a couple of times when I had a continuous run of no's. it seemed like at one point in time, every casino was conspiring against me to back me off while down. So after a while, I will admit, once or twice I may have lost my cool, but never too much, I suppose.
Do you remember what you said to the person?
I think the one time that I did lose my cool, I let everybody know that, one person comes into the building that might possibly have a winning session. And even while losing, you won't allow him to play. Everybody in the tables next to me heard me say it. So, yeah,
Still fairly polite.
I was still fairly polite. Now I typically just walk out of a casino. I don't argue or anything. I don't even bother to cash out. I don't want to do that dance anymore. So I just take my chips, put them in my pocket, and head on down the road.
And then you got to circle back around later. Do you have your wife cash out, or do you just do it at a later date?
Yeah, I just do it at a later date. So I keep some sort of a chip inventory, I guess you could say. As I go back and forth from different locations, I'll just pass through and cash out small amounts. Anything that, the 411's really good about informing you of different casino policies and cash out, like heads up on how much you should or shouldn't cash out. Sometimes reading through other people's comments on there can be really helpful. I know it was for me, so I'll slip back through and just stay under the cash out amount that requires ID. And I guess that is a luxury of having your bankroll grow over time. You don't need that money immediately. So as long as that is the case, then it works very well.
This could change all the time. Sometimes it doesn't change. But for you personally, where in the country has been the sweatiest for you? Like what region or city?
Well, I have to say for me, it's been the Midwest. I currently am only allowed in about 2 casinos in the state of Indiana, and that's basically because they're brand new.
Is that because of all the mandatory ID scanners, you think?
No, I think that had a lot to do with flyering and just I don't really use any cover. That's kind of the approach I've always taken is just a robotic maximizer approach. So I think OSN and once you put a target on your back, it just seems that the Midwest seems to really like to flyer, but you can still get hours in.
Are you doing any heavy disguise work or anything like that?
I can't say that I do. I keep a few different things in the RV. I've gone as far as letting my hair grow out to my shoulders and going with a trucker look that seemed to work very well. Truckers tend to have lots of wads of cash, and if you can kind of correlate the money with some of that stuff, some of the locations that you go to you'll find lots of RVs or lots of trucks parked in the RV parking spots of casinos. So some places they're accustomed to seeing truckers come in with big money, making big bets, things of that nature. So I think that's been good. I've used things where I've allowed my beard to grow out really far, but then I still tuck it in. At some places I might tuck it up and really tight to change my facial features. I've went and got different ID cards with the way that I look, just that I have different pictures that get floated around. But for the most part, I don't do anything crazy, I suppose. I guess about as crazy as I get to put on a nice jacket and pair of shoes and present myself maybe a little bit higher class than I might be.
What are your future plans? Where do you see this going in the near or even longer term?
It's something me and my wife have been talking about. I don't think we're going to give up the RV life anytime soon and return to normal life. I really feel separated from the hustle and bustle, and I think we both kind of like that. As far as AP work goes, I don't think I'll ever give up counting cards. It's just too fun, and I think it's just kind of my nature to do it, to be honest with you. So I am moving towards other things, like crypto investments and a lot of different investment strategies. But as far as giving up card counting, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
And what advice would you give to someone that's considering the full-time RV AP life?
Well, if you're in a relationship, make sure that's a very strong relationship. If you're single, you could totally do an RV. It's a very easy way to keep your expenses low. Try to stay under the radar is the best thing I can say for you. Don't be like I was in the early days and just park anywhere you want and walk up however you want, because they will get onto you and it will make your life a lot harder. And when you figure out how to avoid those things, everything does become a little bit easier.
Do you have any more memorable Backoff stories or casino encounters?
I had a game that became extremely profitable really fast. I remember this was down in Louisiana, and we were actually staying in a RV park of the casinos. It became extremely profitable, extremely fast, and I'll never forget they had this guy that I call Tony. I call him Tony because he looked just like a mob member. He had the gold chains, big Italian guy with the gold chains and the rings and everything. I remember he came up to me behind me and put his hand on the back of the seat. Every decision I made, he had a comment for that. Why would you do that? Why is it you do that? And very slowly, I decided to leave that very uncomfortable situation. And I went and I cashed out. And as I'm walking out, a couple other managers tried to approach me. I had hit my vape while I was trying to walk out, and I turned around and I tried to make it all about that. I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot that you're not allowed to smoke in here. It's totally my apology." And I sent him off a different rail, and the security guard's like, "No, we don't care about that." And I'm like, "I won't do it anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I'm leaving anyways." And I tried to really make it about that. And I got a good step in front of him. And as I walked out the door, there was a whole bunch of pillars, and I stepped onto one side of the pillars faster than they could follow me out the doors, and I kind of just disappeared out of their view. So they sat there and they were talking on their walkie-talkies, and you could hear him. I don't know where he went. He was talking about smoking in the building, and we don't know where he went. And one of the guys talking on the walkie-talkie just happened to walk around the other side of the pillar and see me. And yeah, that was the end of that. They just wanted the ID. They wanted to know who I was. They wanted to know how many chips I had and things of that nature. And when I wouldn't give up any of that information, I just got read the typical trespass act that, told me to get off the property, never return, and all that good stuff. Little did they know I was actually sleeping in their RV park.
That's awesome.
And then your database entry said Highl0w20 was seen vaping at this casino.
I try to put something else out there. It worked for a minute because they were really taken aback, like, "Dude, this isn't why we're talking to you." But I tried to change the subject.
How often are you staying at the casino's RV park? Has that become a problem?
Yeah, it does become a problem. So, like I said, in the early days, I was just all about keeping the expenses as low as possible. So I would do anything I could to pay $0 to stay, even if that meant playing cards in the same places I was staying, which became a big issue. Yeah, like I said, now it's not even a thing. I stay far away. I don't park anywhere in the casino parking lots anymore. So the only other story I guess I would have would be the time I got my first OSN entry, and that was up in northern Indiana. It was towards the end of a shoe with a really high count. I got dealt a pair of tens, and the dealer had a 6 up. I ended up splitting both hands of tens, all four hands. It was actually six hands because the first one turned into a pair of tens as well that got split. All those hands were dealt aces.
Oh,
I'm sitting there with six blackjacks straight up, and I think only the very last hand was dealt a 19. And I won all those hands. But the problem was the dealer had shouted, "All right, counting cards at the casino tonight." She used the casino name at that point in time, but she said it so loud that the pit boss turned around and immediately just went absolutely cherry in the face while I'm getting paid out. And he just looks at me and he goes, "Do you intend on playing the next shoe?" And I'm like, "I suppose if you'd allow it." He says, that's not going to be happening. He was just so mad and red in the face. And I guess this is probably where I decide that this is not going to happen anymore. But I get walked to the cage, harassed for the ID, and these people actually follow me to my car with their cell phones out, recording us all the way to the car to get my license plate, all while informing me I am no longer allowed anywhere near this property. So, yeah,
so do you still split tens?
always. If that's what the count calls for, I'm in the camp of robotic maximizing every opportunity you have.
Awesome. So can you share with us some of the most memorable places or experiences you've had outside of casinos during your RV life?
Sure. I think some of my favorite places to visit are out west. I love to hike. Sedona is a beautiful area. You're not going to find a lot of casinos up in Sedona, but if you love to hike and be close to nature, see Horseshoe Bend, there's so much good outdoor activity and the air is just so clean. It's a great place to be. I'd say that's probably one of my favorite places to be.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to share your story with us. And personally, I'm really glad that that Advantage Play has been a good fit, both financially and for your family. And I'm excited to, keep up with you and hear how things progress as you continue your adventures.
For sure. I really appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. If you want to learn more about card counting and Advantage Play, you can check out blackjackapprenticeship.com, and we will catch you guys next time.